Fail forward and overcome your mistakes quickly. With over 20 years of investing experience, I know that failure is part of the game of investing. In fact, it's part of any game you play. If you want to be successful, you have to be prepared to fail along the way. This understanding of failure hasn't always been there for me, and fear of failure has been a big issue for me in the past. I struggled after the financial crisis of 2008 and I was crippled with fear. I was in £50,000 of negative equity with my rental properties, and this led to fear of failure with property investing. And I didn't buy another rental property until January 2019. A little gap of 12 years between rental properties. I missed out on some huge opportunities with property because I was scared of failure. Please learn from this mistake. I made some mistakes in the stock market, and by 2011 pretty much gambled away our life savings of £8,000 and didn't invest in the stock market for another 8 years because of a fear of failure. And again, I missed out on some huge opportunities in the stock market. There's loads of examples of my fear of failure, and they've mainly been related to money, like a job interview that I got far too emotional about in 2017. Around this time I was pushing hard in my contracting career and I'd applied for a job on a wind farm. This was to be working for the client and was a step towards management. In January 2017 I had the interview for the client role and fluffed my lines. I put too much pressure on myself. I tried to memorise 3 sheets of A4 about my career to date. Schoolboy error. When I lost my train of thought, it was a really bad moment. Really bad. Not because I'd forgotten my lines, it was the fact that I was close to tears and demonstrated a lot of vulnerability. I ended up getting the job as I managed to get a grip of myself during the rest of the interview, but that's not the point. Don't let fear of failure affect you in an interview, in anything. All you can do is your best. Only a few months later, I again showed my poor relationship with failure. As part of this new job, I was to become authorised to carry out HV, high voltage switching, on offshore wind farms. To become authorised, I had to do a 5-day switching course. Unfortunately, I failed the course. On the Friday, I was devastated and felt like a failure. Felt like I'd let my family down. Felt my manager would probably get rid of me. I was even bothered about what my colleagues thought about me failing this course. I know how bad this sounds. Now, trust me, I cringe thinking back. To make things even worse, I left the training course and my car juddered to a halt. I had to run about a mile, or what felt like a mile, to the nearest garage to get £5 worth of fuel, run back to the car and then go back to the garage to fill up. Let's just say I've had better weeks, but really it wasn't a big deal and hasn't affected my life at all. Looking back, no one was bothered in the slightest that I had failed. It was all in my head. Things have changed over the last few years as I'm getting more comfortable with failure. You need to fail forward and move past your mistakes, and you need to move past them quickly, or you will end up missing out on some huge opportunities, as I've touched on. Towards the end of 2018, I got into personal development, much needed personal development, and this is pretty much when I started to get comfortable with failure. I realised how bad my fear of failure was and started to try and move past it, like taking myself less seriously. By 2019, I was ready to fail forward and put 10 years of negativity behind me. Like buying my 4th rental property, I took a risk and used all of my life savings for the deposit, but I wasn't gripped by fear. I was excited about becoming an investor again and working towards financial independence. I managed to get the property at a big discount, and this was a big deal for me at the time. It gave me the confidence to go on and buy more properties. I had a purple patch with work between 2012 and 2016 and could have bought several properties during this time. I didn't because of fear of failure, but this fear of failure wouldn't hold me back anymore, and this is what I want for you. Learn from my mistakes and get your head around failing forward. Take the bull by the horns and take some risks. By mid-2019, I was also ready to get back into the stock market with index investing. This is because I'd done a lot of research and fully understood index investing. And again, I was ready to fail forward and take some risks. If you want to be a successful investor and if you want to hit your financial goals, you have to be prepared to fail along the way. The key is learning from your mistakes and pushing forward. Better still, you can learn from my mistakes. Thomas Edison was reported to have failed 10,000 times as he worked out how to create the electric light bulb. If he wasn't prepared to fail, we wouldn't have lights to light up our homes. I look at any successful investor. In fact, anyone successful at anything, and I've found that they're more than happy to fail forward. This is what I want for you as you learn to be an investor and eventually a successful investor. Here is a summary of how you can fail forward fast. 1. Be open-minded about failure. 2. Understand that failure is just a step towards success. 3. Don't worry about what anyone else thinks. 4. Learn from your mistakes and move past them quickly. 5. Better still, learn from my mistakes. If I got into personal development in 2009, I would have been better equipped to cope with my fear of failure. I would have taken some risks and continued to invest. And I would have avoided that negative decade where I made mistake after mistake, very painful mistakes. You don't necessarily need personal development like I did in 2018, but you do need to be prepared to fail if you're serious about becoming an investor, a successful investor who lives life on their own terms. Anyway, that's it for this very important video. I'll see you on the next one.